Welcome back to Hexes, Haunts, and Howls. I'm your host, Cupcake. I want to welcome everybody back to A through Z of Haunted America, a series where we travel state by state, uncovering the haunted history, paranormal encounters, and unsettling stories that refuse to stay buried. Tonight, we're stepping into a state that doesn't need ghost stories to feel uneasy, because the land itself already does the work. Arkansas is a place of dense forest, winding rivers, towering mountains, and small, isolated towns tucked far from the noise of the outside world. It's quiet here, sometimes too quiet. Miles of untouched land stretch between communities. Roads disappear into trees. Trails twist into places where sound carries strangely. And people have gone missing, gotten lost, or sworn they were never truly alone. This is the kind of environment where stories don't just begin, they linger. Tonight's episode focuses on Arkansas, and we're breaking it down into the things this state is known for when it comes to the unexplained. We'll be covering the top 3 most reported paranormal and supernatural encounters in Arkansas, locations and the phenomena that come up again and again in eyewitness accounts, local legends, and documented reports. Places where people have seen figures that shouldn't be there, heard voices with no source, and walked away knowing something was watching them. Before we wrap up, we'll also be diving into Arkansas's most talked about conspiracy theory, a topic surrounded by secrecy, speculation, and just enough unanswered questions to keep people uneasy. It's the kind of theory that makes you wonder how much of what's happening here is truly accidental, and how much is being kept quiet. Let's begin. If Arkansas has a heart when it comes to hauntings, it beats inside the Arlington Hotel. Sitting at the entrance of Hot Springs National Park, the Arlington isn't just a luxury hotel. It's a witness to illness, to power, to secrecy, and to death. The hotel first opened in 1875, built to accommodate wealthy visitors seeking the healing waters of the hot springs. Politicians, celebrities, mobsters, social elites all passed through its doors. Presidents stayed here. Criminals hid here. People came hoping to be cured, and many never left. From the beginning, the Arlington was a place where life and death existed side by side. Over the decades, the Arlington burned down twice and was rebuilt each time, larger, grander, heavier with history. The current structure opened in 1924, and with it came stories that never faded. Guests arrived suffering from tuberculosis, cancer, and other illnesses once believed to be treated by the mineral bath. Some improved, some didn't. Deaths weren't unusual. And during Prohibition, Hot Springs became a playground for organized crime. The Arlington reportedly hosted mob figures and underground dealings while maintaining its image as a respectable resort. Illness, secrecy, power, desperation. All the ingredients for a haunting that doesn't rest. Today, the Arlington is considered one of the most haunted locations in Arkansas, and staff members are often the first to admit it. Guests and employees alike report apparitions appearing in hallways, elevators, and guest rooms. Figures dressed in early 20th century clothing, A woman standing silently near staircases. A man in a suit who vanishes when approached. Some spirits seem unaware that they're dead. Others seem very aware that they're not alone. One of the most common reports involves shadow figures, dark shapes moving along the halls, figures standing at the foot of the beds, something crossing a doorframe without sound. Housekeeping staff have reported entering empty rooms only to feel watched, sometimes seeing a shadow move across the room before the feeling fades. In several cases, staff have refused to clean specific rooms alone. Footsteps are another frequent phenomenon. Guests report hearing heavy footsteps pacing the hallways late at night, even when no one else is present. Sometimes the sound stops directly outside their door. Security has checked cameras after complaints, only to find empty halls. No source, no explanation, just the sound of someone walking, without a body. Guests have also reported objects moving or disappearing, luggage shifting positions, personal items being knocked off tables, bathroom lights turning on and off, doors opening or closing on their own. Some guests wake to find furniture slightly rearranged, as if someone was there while they slept, watching them. Certain suites are mentioned repeatedly in staff stories, rooms that seem more active than others. Guests staying in these rooms often report feeling sudden pressure in the chest, cold spots that don't move, the sensation of someone sitting on the bed, or even hearing whispering or soft voices near their ears. Some staff members claim specific spirits return to the same rooms night after night, almost as if they were still checking in, almost as if the Arlington is still home. Perhaps the most unsettling thing about the Arlington isn't what people see. It's what they feel. Guests often describe an overwhelming sense of being watched, even during the day. A heaviness in certain areas of the hotel. A feeling that something is aware of them. Not threatening, just present. Like a memory that refuses to fade. The Arlington Hotel has seen more than most places ever will. It has held people at their weakest, their most powerful, their most desperate. And some believe when emotions run that deep, they don't always leave when the body does. For many guests, the Arlington is a beautiful, historic hotel. For others, it's a place where the past never checked out. And the Arlington is only the beginning. If the Arlington Hotel feels like a place where spirits linger, the Crescent Hotel feels like a place where they were left behind. Perched high above the town of Eureka Springs, the Crescent Hotel has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted hotels in America. And unlike many haunted locations, its history is well documented, deeply tragic, and impossible to separate from the stories that surround it. The Crescent Hotel opened in 1886, originally built as a luxury resort for wealthy travelers seeking fresh mountain air and rest. But that dream didn't last. Within a few years, the hotel changed hands and purpose multiple times, eventually becoming something far more sinister. In the 1930s, the Crescent was turned into a hospital under the control of a man claiming to be a doctor. He promised cutting-edge cancer treatments and miraculous cures. What patients didn't know was that the treatments were fake. Patients were subjected to painful, useless procedures. They were injected with questionable substances. Some were exposed to radiation. Others were simply lied to, given false hope while their conditions worsened. Many patients died in the hospital. Some were buried quietly. Others were sent home to die. And many families never knew the full truth of what happened inside those walls. The hospital eventually shut down in scandal, leaving behind anger, fear, and unanswered questions. Today, guests report seeing ghostly figures wandering the hallways, often described as pale, sickly, or confused. Some appear in hospital gowns. Others move slowly, as if weak or in pain. Witnesses describe the overwhelming sense that these spirits don't realize the hospital is gone. They're still waiting. Cold spots are often reported throughout the hotel, especially in former patient areas. Guests feel sudden chills, pressure in the chest, or dizziness with no medical explanation. Some say the air feels thick in certain hallways, making it hard to breathe. Others report nausea or headaches that vanish once they leave specific areas. The hallways are where the most encounters happen. Guests report seeing figures at the very far end, only for them to vanish when approached. Some describe a nurse standing silently, watching. Others see a man in a long coat who disappears into walls. Security footage has captured unexplained movement, doors opening, shadows crossing hallways, and lights flickering without cause. The hotel has been investigated countless times by paranormal teams. EMF spikes, unexplained temperature drops, and electronic voice phenomenon. Investigators report voices responding to questions, often sounding confused or distressed. One repeated message shows up again and again. Help. Guests staying overnight often report the feeling of someone sitting on their bed, being touched or shaken awake, hearing whispers near their ears, or waking up to see someone standing in their room. Many leave early. Others return, unable to shake the pull of the place. The Crescent isn't haunted because of one event. It's haunted because of betrayal. People came seeking healing. They trusted and they believed. And that trust was violated. Some say the spirits remain not because they're angry, but because they're still waiting for the help that they were promised. The Crescent Hotel doesn't need to scare you. It simply reminds you of what happens when hope is taken from the desperate. And in Eureka Springs, hope still walks the halls. There's a stretch of abandoned railroad tracks outside the small town of Gurdon, Arkansas, where people don't stay long once the sun goes down. Not because there's a warning sign, not because anyone stops you, but because when the light appears, your instincts tell you to leave. The Gurdon light was first documented in the 1930s, though locals insist it was seen long before that. Witnesses reported a glowing orb hovering just above the tracks, sometimes blue, sometimes white, sometimes a faint yellow. It wasn't a headlight. It wasn't a lantern. And it didn't behave like anything familiar. The light would appear suddenly, hover in place, and then move. The most well-known explanation ties the light to the spirit of a railroad worker who was killed on the tracks. Some versions say he was struck by a train. Others say he was attacked, decapitated, and left to die. According to legend, the light represents the lantern he carried, or his soul searching endlessly along the rails where he lost his life. Locals say if you see the light coming towards you, you shouldn't wait to find out. Those who've gone looking for the Gurdon light often describe the same unsettling details. The light appears far down the tracks, small, distant, almost harmless, and then it moves closer. Not steadily, not predictably. It weaves, it darts, it stops suddenly, like it's watching you. Some witnesses say the light fouls them if they walk away. Others say it splits into multiple lights before merging back into one. A few have reported the light rising into the air, hovering at eye level, then vanishing without a sound. No heat, no wind, no explanation. What disturbs people the most isn't the light itself. It's the feeling that comes with it. Visitors often describe a sudden drop in temperature, a heavy pressure in their chest, or the overwhelming sense that they are not alone. Some say they feel eyes on their back. Others report the urge to run. Pure panic without reason. Several witnesses claim they've heard footsteps on the gravel behind them, but saw no one. Over the years, skeptics have tried to debunk the Gurdon light. Some say it's distant headlights refracted through the trees. Others suggest swamp gas, reflections, or atmospheric phenomena. But these explanations fall apart when witnesses describe the light changing direction, approaching people, or appearing in complete isolation where no roads exist. Even locals who don't believe in the paranormal avoid the tracks at night, just in case. Despite decades passing, sightings continue. Teenagers, paranormal investigators, hikers, and skeptics all report similar experiences, often without knowing the legend beforehand. Many leave shaken. Some refuse to talk about it. And a few claim the light appeared after they heard their name called from the darkness. The Gurdon light isn't tied to a building. It isn't confined to walls. It moves. It searches. And whether it's the spirit of a murdered man or something far older, the light doesn't want you to understand it. It just wants you to notice it. Because once you do, it knows where you are. If there's one thing Arkansas teaches you quickly, it's that the land remembers. Not in obvious ways, not with monuments or signs, but in the way the woods feel too quiet, in the way roads seem to stretch longer at night, in the way people instinctively lock their doors, even when they don't know why. This next section focuses on the places across Arkansas where the stories don't stay contained to a single building, but bleed into the landscape itself. Devil's Den State Park sits deep in the Ozark Mountains, surrounded by thick forests, caves, and trails that wind far beyond easy visibility. By day, it's beautiful. By night, it's something else entirely. Hikers and campers report hearing footsteps behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. Others describe shadows moving between trees, just out of focus, disappearing the moment they're noticed. Some visitors report lost time. Hours pass without memory. Phones die unexpectedly. Trails seem to loop back on themselves. And the most common detail, the feeling of being watched. Not from one direction, but from everywhere at once. Devil's Den is known for its caves and narrow rock corridors. Visitors report hearing whispers echo through soft passages, voices that don't belong to anyone nearby. Some say the caves feel occupied, not by animals, but by something waiting. Locals will tell you not to wander off trail here, not because you'll get lost, but because some people don't come back the same. Arkansas has no shortage of back roads that locals avoid after dark. Stories circulate of travelers who swear they drove for miles without reaching their destination, only to suddenly find themselves back where they started. Some report ghostly lights hovering near bridges, drifting slowly across the road before vanishing. Others describe apparitions appearing in headlights, figures that disappear the moment the brakes are slammed. And in some cases, drivers claim they picked up passengers who were never there. There are quiet rumors, never official, of people who went missing on rural Arkansas roads and were never found. Cars discovered abandoned, engines still warm, doors open. Locals don't talk about it openly. They just tell you not to stop if you see someone standing on the road at night. Across Arkansas, royal homes and abandoned structures carry their own stories. Residents report doors opening on their own, footsteps in empty rooms, cold spots that move through the house, and objects shifting without explanation. Some say the activity increases at night. Others say it worsens when the land is disturbed. Renovations, new construction, or clearing forests. As if something doesn't want to be forgotten. The Ozark Mountains are steeped in legend. Stories tied to tragic deaths, family feuds, and people who vanished into the wilderness. Some spirits are said to be bound to the land itself, not haunting homes, not tied to objects, but anchored to soil, tree, and stone. People who lived here for generations say the Ozarks don't like strangers. and they don't like being watched. In Arkansas, the hauntings don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they just let you know you're trespassing. And that brings us to a question that keeps coming up in Arkansas, one that's been whispered for decades. If so many encounters happen far from witnesses, if people go missing where no one is watching, if light appears where there shouldn't be any, then what's really hidden in the Ozarks? Is it just isolation, vast forests, and empty roads playing tricks on the mind? Or is the silence doing its job a little too well? Because when land is remote enough, when records are thin enough, and when oversight stays quiet, secrecy stops sounding like paranoia. It starts sounding intentional. When people think of government secrecy, Arkansas isn't usually the first state that comes to mind. And that's exactly why some believe it's the perfect place. The Ozark Mountains are rugged, forested, and remote. There are stretches of land where cell service vanishes. Roads narrow into gravel, and entire areas remain untouched for decades. According to conspiracy theorists, this kind of terrain is ideal for underground facilities, testing sites, or restricted operations that don't want attention. Locals speak quietly about areas where you're warned not to wander. Not because of its dangerous terrain, but because it's off limits. Stories circulate of low-flying, unmarked aircraft, helicopters operating at odd hours, and trucks entering remote areas late at night and never leaving visibly. Some claim there are hidden entrances beneath hillsides or sealed behind heavy gates disguised as utility structures. Others believe abandoned mines and natural cave systems have been repurposed. Nothing official confirms this, but nothing outright denies it either. Arkansas has a long history of UFO sightings, particularly in the Royal regions near the Ozarks. Witnesses describe lights hovering silently, objects moving at impossible speeds, and crafts disappearing into the mountains. Many sightings happen far from populated areas, places where no one is around to corroborate or challenge the story. Which raises the question, are these sightings rare or just rarely reported? Conspiracy theories often point to missing persons cases tied to remote regions. People who vanish near forests, back roads, or restricted land. No signs of struggle. No clear trail. While official explanations cite terrain and exposure, others believe something else is happening in places no one is meant to see. Arkansas has long been home to sensitive infrastructure, military routes, training grounds, and federal oversight in rural regions. Records are often limited. Access is controlled. Information is compartmentalized. This creates gaps. And gaps invite speculation. Some believe Arkansas's haunted reputation isn't separate from its secrecy. Remote areas produce more stories because there are fewer witnesses, events go uninvestigated, or experiences aren't challenged. When something happens out there, you're alone with it. And when no one can confirm or deny your experience, the line between paranormal and classified blurs. So, why does the theory persist? There's no proof, but there's also no transparency. And in a place where forests swallow sound, roads vanish into darkness, and people disappear without answers, the idea that something is hidden feels less far-fetched. Maybe Arkansas is haunted. Maybe it's monitored. Or maybe the scariest thing about the Ozarks is how much can happen without anyone ever knowing. By now, a pattern starts to emerge. Not just in Arkansas, but in the way people experience the unexplained when the world goes quiet. Arkansas isn't haunted because of one hotel, one light, or one legend. It's haunted because of its environment. Dense forests that swallow sound, mountains that block sight lines, and rivers that cut off any chance of escape. Add isolation, long stretches without witnesses, towns separated by miles of nothing, and you have a place where experiences happen without interruption. And without interruption, there's no one there to tell you what you saw wasn't real. Many of Arkansas's towns sit atop older settlements, places where people lived hard lives and died quietly. Deaths weren't always recorded. Graves weren't always marked. And when land remembers tragedy, it finds ways to repeat it. Across the Arlington Hotel, the Crescent, the Gurdon Light, and the Ozarks themselves, the same themes keep resurfacing. Unexplained lights appearing without warning, moving with intention, and watching before vanishing. Apparitions tied to death or trauma, figures that linger where suffering occurred, spirits that seem unaware time has moved on. Shadow figures and disembodied voices, seen at the edge of vision, heard when no one is present, often calling names or simply waiting to be noticed. These aren't isolated stories. They echo each other. In cities, strange moments get drowned out by noise. In Arkansas, silence gives them space. When you're alone on a trail, driving a road with no lights, or standing in a place where self-service disappears, your awareness sharpens. You notice things you'd normally dismiss. And sometimes, what notices you back doesn't need to make itself fully known. Think about the last time you were somewhere truly quiet. No traffic, no voices, no distractions. Did you feel calm? Or did you feel watched? Because many listeners say their experiences didn't start with fear. They started with a feeling, a shift, a presence, the sense that something had stepped closer. Arkansas doesn't chase you, it waits. And sometimes, waiting is enough. And that brings us to the end of our journey through Arkansas. From the haunted halls of the Arlington Hotel and the Crescent to the mysterious glow of the Gurdon Light, from shadowed forests to abandoned roads, we've seen just how much this state carries with it. A sense that the past is never truly gone. But now, I want to hear from you. If you've experienced something in Arkansas, whether it was in a hotel, along a quiet road, in the forests of the Ozarks, or even in your own home, share it with me. No matter how small or strange it might seem, it matters. You can send your submissions to hexes, haunts, and howls at gmail.com. Again, that's hexes, haunts, and howls, all one word, at gmail.com. All stories will remain anonymous. And who knows? We may dive into a future listener-only episode focused entirely on your experiences in Arkansas. So take a moment, look over your shoulder, and ask yourself, what have you seen when no one else was looking? Thank you for listening to Hexes, Haunts, and Howls. I'm your host, Cupcake. Until next time, stay sweet.